I believe that that's one of Huntley's strengths is that he
Yeah.
knows the places to put in the systems. So like efficiency in the warehouse is always a big one. Efficiency and be able to turn around gear and make it work and get it back out. But then when you go to the sales side of the world, yeah, we use all of the same systems, but we all work in our own way in our own niche, right?
Right.
Like certain guys are more market driven, like Martin Kelly, who I'm sure you know.
I do. Yeah.
He is more of the concert touring industry. Like that's his niche. That's
Yeah.
where he spends his time.
Mm.
I spend a lot more of my time in the corporate world.
Yeah.
I still do tours because obviously that's
You
the
have
where I
friends.
came from and I have
Yeah.
friends, but but I don't tour. I don't do tours as my main niche.
Yeah.
It's my main niche is really in the corporate world and with
Yeah. That makes
corporate
sense.
guys.
Well, hello, and here we are on Geese of Gear again, another episode. We got a lot of good ones coming up again, of course. We always do, and yeah. So I actually have one that I'm supposed to record tomorrow, and I don't know what's going on because it is currently scheduled to record with Jake Berry, who, of course, is the godfather of production managers, I guess, or one of the OG production managers out there, and he was the production manager for the final Ozzy Black Sabbath show. And so I actually had him coming on to talk about that because it was obviously a huge event and just incredible. And Jake talked to me about it a little bit and just said it was really the highlight of his career. He said, if I died tomorrow or if I retired tomorrow, I'd have a big smile on my face because that was, just incredible. And, but then of course, just yesterday, as I'm recording this, Ozzy died, sadly. And so, I'm not sure if I'm still recording this podcast, so I might be talking gibberish right now, and you're going, but I just listened to it. Or, it may never happen, but I really do hope it happens because, A, I like Jake, and I'd love to talk to him about this show and just some of the challenges and stuff with moving all those bands through and just dealing with Ozzy and what his mood was like and all of those things, because he's close with Ozzy or was. So I hope it still happens. If it does, you'll hear it. Hopefully you'll listen to it. I think it'll be very, very interesting. And if it doesn't, then maybe it'll happen someday when he feels better about doing it. Because now obviously, with Ozzy having passed, it's a sad day. So anyways, today's guest is Rod Gibson, Vice President of Rentals at Christie Lites. With over 4 decades in the lighting industry, Rod has built a career defined by hands-on experience, leadership, and deep knowledge across every facet of entertainment lighting. Starting out on the Western Canadian club circuit, where I actually met him and knew him, Rod moved into touring and corporate work with Westsun and RA Roth, gaining valuable experience along the way. In the mid-90s, Rod served as the Vari Lite operator and technician on the first national tour of Showboat, followed by nearly a decade touring as a lighting director, designer, and crew chief with PRG. Then in 2006, Rod joined Christie Lites in Seattle as operations manager, where he played a key role in expanding shop operations and streamlining workflows. He transitioned into rentals in 2010 and today serves as vice president of rentals. Rod's practical knowledge and show experience give him a unique edge in understanding the needs of clients and crews alike. Outside of work, Rod enjoys fishing, golfing, and cheering on the Seattle Kraken, Seahawks, and Mariners always finding time for his family amidst a busy career. Rod was last on the show a couple of years ago, almost to the day, and I like the guy and I look forward to talking with him. So please welcome Red Rod Gibson onto the podcast. Red, what's happening?
Not too much.
Are you still Red, or are you like gray Rod Gibson now?
Well, I refuse to change my name to White.
White.
Redheads, we don't go gray, we go white.
Oh, there you go. I'm kind of going, I don't know what the hell I'm going. So we were talking about bands in the 80s and 90s that we hung out with before we started recording. We did all the stuff we couldn't talk about while we were recording. But I have an interesting story. You know Greg Cox, I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
So Greg, for those of you who don't know, which he'd like to think you all know who I'm talking about, but some of you probably don't. Anyways, Greg called me up a couple of years ago and he said, hey, I finally got my green card and I bought a house down in Florida. And I said, oh, really? That's cool. I said, where? He goes, well, I don't know if it's near you. Can you tell me? And I said, well, tell me where it is. And I said, send me a pin, basically, like send me the address or a pin or something. So he sends me the address and I'm like, you're in Wellington. I live in Wellington. It's a pretty small town. You can't be far from me. This is bizarre, like in an area with, I don't know, 5-6 million people or something. He lives pretty close to me. And so I put the address on the map and it's literally like, as a crow flies, probably a half a mile from my house, but walking there, it's about 1.25 miles or something. I literally walk by this place almost every morning when I'm in Florida. And I said, dude, that place is right down the street from me. And so Greg and I hadn't really hung out in years. Like I talk to him every time I'm in Calgary or Canmore, my house. And once in 5 years, we'll see each other or whatever. But I wouldn't call us close. We've always been friends, but, not people that call every time something happens or whatever. Yeah. So anyways, he says, I'm coming down in a few months. I want you to come. My brother lives right next door, and I want you to meet my brother. I've never met his older brother. So my girlfriend then, now fiance, at the time, go over to his brother's house one night for drinks or whatever, and hit it off with his brother. So now his brother and his wife, Janine, are like our best friends in Florida now. We go out with them for dinner once or twice a week. We hang out all the time. And Greg's, it's kind of funny because he's a little jealous about the whole thing. But, now Greg and I are super close. He was out here in Canmore. I'm going to stay at his house in Calgary in a couple of weeks. So, it's just weird how the world happens. Because, like, I've literally been friends with him since, I don't know, mid-'80s, early 80s. And now we're just kind of figuring out the depth of that friendship. And we talk, multiple times per week. And he loves FaceTiming. So he'll probably FaceTime me right in the middle of this podcast. And I'll try and figure out how to get him on our screen. And he'll be like, is that Rod Gibson? So, yeah, it's funny. I'm reconnecting with so many people now that I spend a lot more time up here in Canada, especially.
Yeah,
which is good and bad.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the thing. Like when you move to the U.S. and you have different friends here, but it's fun when you get to actually see people again. Like I follow Greg a little bit on Facebook and his various bands, Broken Toys and whatnot. Yeah. I see he's still got his Corvette, so.
He's got a couple of them, but he sold the yellow one, the nice one, the really nice 67.
Forever.
I think it was. Yeah. He sold it at, was it the Mecum auction? One of the big auctions. Okay. He sold it maybe 2 years ago for pretty big money. Cause it's a big money car, Yeah. But he's got one of the C8s and he's got an older, I forget what year his older one is, 60, maybe a 65, 66. Perhaps, that he's rebuilding right now. So yeah, he's always been a Corvette guy.
Yeah, I remember even when he was even in Steeler, he had a Corvette then.
Yeah. So yeah. So did I. I was part of that gang. It was Huey Brown, Robbie Brown, me, Greg Cox, all driving around in our silly Corvettes. Mark Crisanti, I don't know if you knew him too, the guy at Mainly Music.
Probably met him.
Yeah, he was always on the phone getting bitched out by his girlfriend. So he was around the corner with the phone with the really long cord,
Yeah,
because he
back when
didn't
we
want
had cords on
anybody.
the phone. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And in mainly music, we had the longest phone cord because usually it was for Mark because he needed to go find a little hole somewhere to hide so that he could get yelled at by his girlfriend every day. So, who I don't know if it's still his wife or not, but might be. Who
Uh,
knows?
yeah,
So,
it
yeah.
was funny because I thought of that of you recently
Uh-oh.
when well it was just like I don't know why I was thinking about a different band that I worked with a long time ago. Um, they were called Young Gun.
Yeah,
Uh,
I remember them.
Originally they were like Pretty Boys, and then they became
Yeah,
like Young Gun. They were managed by Larry Gilstrom,
yeah.
and Larry asked me when they were playing at the Commodore in Vancouver. And Larry asked me to if I would go do lights for them. I think they had a guy that did lights for them, but he was
Yeah.
doing something else at the time. And so anyway, I went in there and programmed that old Shoko board and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I just remember those guys. They didn't stay on the stage for like more than a few minutes at a time before they were gone with their wireless stuff all
Oh
over the
yeah.
audience and running everywhere. And I was like,
Yeah. When
Marcel used to be
wireless when
Marcel used to
wireless
be
became
famous
big.
for selling everybody wireless things
Yeah, yeah.
from mainly. He
It
was
was
big.
funny when wireless became big, everyone was like, running around the club and stuff and you couldn't
Yeah.
find the musicians, let alone put a follow spot on the singer or
Oh
something, you
yeah, if
know.
you were doing lights, it's like you
Yeah.
guys realize I can't get you back there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Young Gun, I remember they were really good. And today's podcast is brought to you by Artistry in Motion. When it's time to make a moment unforgettable, Artistry in Motion delivers. Since 1994, they've been the go-to source for top-tier confetti and streamer special effects, turning ordinary events into explosive, show-stopping experiences. From concerts and TV productions to major sporting events and theme parks, they bring the wow factor with precision and creativity. So whether you need a massive stadium drop or a subtle picture-perfect cascade, they make it happen on time, every time. Their team doesn't just supply confetti, they collaborate with show designers, event planners, and production teams to ensure every effect is camera ready and crowd approved. Want to take your next event to the next level? Hit them up, artistryinmotion.com, and let's make memories happen.
Yep.
And was Marco the bass player in that? The same guy that played with Guy Jones for a long time?
No. Oh gee, I'm trying to remember his name.
I can't remember who was in that band, but I know I knew them, but I just can't remember. I
Yeah.
forget most of those people.
Yeah. Brian Howes is he's actually become a music producer. He's doing
Oh, wow.
really well. He's wrote several pretty big songs. He wrote one for a band called Hinder.
Yeah.
It's a ballad about I forget the name of the song off the top of my head, but I can hear it in my head.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
yeah,
know the band Hinder, but I
yeah.
don't know if I'd remember the
I
song
think
anyways.
it was a pretty big hit for them, and I think
Yeah.
it's been covered by a few people now too. But he seems to be doing really, really well. It was
Yeah.
really funny, like you talk about running into people. I ran into Bobby and Brian. They had a band, I think they were called Deadline, and it was when I was first out with Kid Rock, and they opened up for a couple of shows for Kid Rock, and
Oh,
I
that'd be fun.
walked into the pisser in the middle of the afternoon and standing there, and this guy looks over and goes, "Didn't you used to do lights for us every now and then?" Like, I was like,
That's
look over, it was
hilarious.
Bobby, the drummer,
Yeah, that's
Young Guns,
hilarious.
so.
No, it's it's funny because I always think I'm going to walk into a bar or something here in Alberta and just go, "Oh, I know you. I used to date you," or I used to be in a band with you, or whatever. But nobody looks the same. Obviously, it's like you wouldn't recognize very many, especially girls. Like,
Yeah.
can you imagine running into girls that you knew in the '80s? And thinking, wow, she's going to be just as hot as she was. And
Yeah.
it's like, who are you?
Weren't you about like a foot taller when your
Yeah,
hair was?
right. Yeah. That's so funny. But I love slash hate. Like one of the reasons I got out of music early is because I knew that I'd probably rot away, sort of in the C clubs or B clubs or something, not making any money and just miserable for my whole life. Plus, I just wasn't making any money really. And but the guys who are still doing it from then, like guys that I sold guitars to in all the club bands and stuff, the guys from that era who are still doing it, it's impressive, you know, like Reed Shimazawa, he's kicking ass. He's playing in multiple bands and actually making a decent living as a playing musician.
Mhm.
Chris Chalice, I saw, is in that Motley Crue tribute band, Livewire, I think they're called, who are actually pretty good. And Brian Berger, the guitar player in that band, plays in like 4 tribute bands, and it's interesting. Like some of these guys are actually like Chris. I know he has a painting company, so that's not how he makes his living. But you know, the fact that these guys can still make a living playing in bands is impressive.
Yeah,
It's
I
impressive.
mean, I look at some of the people that you know I used to work with in club bands and whatnot, like Jake Adams, who lives out drummer. He lives out Toronto way these days, but he's played in a like a Shania Twain tribute and a
Oh,
few others, and you know I give him all the respect in the world for like you know making a career out of being a
yeah,
musician. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
when so many couldn't.
Well, and now that the old bands are getting older, um, you know, there's a lot of fill-in roles in a lot of those bands. Like you got a lot of bands who are touring with no original members and stuff.
Oh yeah,
And like April Wine, I think they still have Gilstrom, but or not Gilstrom. What's his name? Starts with a G, the guitar player.
is
Anyways,
it?
they still have him in the band, but he's about to retire. But other
Yeah,
than him, there's no original, and he wasn't even original. He started like I think 5 or 6 years into April Wine.
yeah.
But
Trooper has no original members.
correct, yeah, which is wild because what's his name? Ray has such a unique voice. I haven't heard the
Yeah.
new guy, but Ray has such a unique voice. It'd be a hard one to replace, you'd think.
I think who was the singer? He was kind of uh, uh, Steel.
Hmm.
Um, he played in a band with Brian McLeod, Steel McLeod and Prisoner. Danny
Okay.
Latham
Yeah.
was in that band for a little while.
Yeah. I don't
Uh,
know them. That was probably after I already
Dave
moved.
Steele, that's his name. Yeah,
I
I
might
think
have
he's the
already moved
singer.
at that point.
He's a really good singer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very versatile voice. Well versed in the in commercials. He was the voice on the Red Robin commercials for the
Oh,
longest
really?
time. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. That's
Uh,
better money than playing in bar bands.
yeah.
Um, yeah. I mean, there's Prism, I don't think has any original members.
No,
You know,
I mean
because what's his name? The singer died years and years ago in a car accident, I think.
I was
And
renting rights
Darcy
to
replaced him.
Foreigner recently, and you know they didn't
Yeah.
have any original members.
Well, now they don't even have what's his name, the guy from Hurricane who sang with them for 20
For like
years or
20,
whatever.
yeah, the
Yeah.
singer, yeah,
Now they've got the other guy who's now the replacement to him,
yeah,
Jose or Juan or something, some Hispanic name I can't remember. But he sounds pretty good, but he doesn't sound as good as that guy. That guy just did it right. He sang
yeah,
perfectly in that band for a long time. So
yeah.
probably a
And I
bummer
mean,
to retire, but you're 70 and you don't feel like touring anymore. I get it.
yeah,
You know, I get it.
I'm
Yeah.
glad I don't tour anymore. You know, so,
Yeah. Yeah. This episode is brought to you today by ETC Rigging. For 50 years, ETC has made a name for itself in the world of entertainment technology. You can find ETC products in buildings of every size across the entire globe. Broadway shows, rock concerts, sports stadiums, outdoor parks, TV studios, and convention centers, you name it. They have all trusted ETC to make their spaces beautiful and safe. Many of these spaces include rigging systems to keep them running smoothly and safely. Fortunately, ETC Rigging offers a range of hoists and controls to accommodate the unique needs of various production spaces and budgets. ETC's motorized hoists and hoist control systems raise theater technology, including stage curtains, lighting equipment, backdrops, projection screens, and more. And the recent addition of Prodigy Balance, a new counterweight rigging solution for loads up to 1,200 pounds, brings more options to venues looking for safe, user-friendly rigging. If you need backstage rigging that is easy to learn and safe for students and volunteers to use, Prodigy Balance could be the answer. ETC is known for its customer support and 24/7, 365 availability. But now employees have even more of a personal stake in maintaining that reputation because ETC has become 100% employee owned. Each person building the rigging systems, developing the control software, and answering support calls is actually an owner at ETC. Outstanding support, reliable products, innovative technologies. This is the foundation of excellence ETC has built over the past 50 years, and they plan to deliver more in the next 50. For the latest ETC products and installation news, visit etcconnect.com.
Give props to all the guys that are still out there chugging away, but I mean,
And some guys love it. Like Cosmo, I talked to Cosmo and I'm like, how long do you want to do this? And he said, as long as I can. I love this. Like I love, he hates being away from his wife, but everything else about it he loves. He loves being in all these beautiful cities that he's been in so many times. And,
Yeah. Well, I would say that's the one part that, if there was ever a part that I miss, it would be actually running the show. Like that moment right before the show when everything's ready and it's all
House
working
lights
and
out.
you're set and you call house lights and you get that little bit of goose flesh on your arms when the crowd goes up and that was always my favorite moment. Like my favorite.
Especially the size of some of these shows now. Like when the lights do come on, it's like whoa, it's incredible. The size of and impact of so many of these shows now visually is just unreal. It's just come such a long way.
Yeah, like when you were in a stadium. Like we did, my favorite moment of all time was the Millennial New Year's, and we were at the Silver Dome in Detroit, and I was running lights for Kid Rock.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, he's gonna come on from stage right. I'd done all my spot calls, told everybody what their positions were gonna be. The first 6 cues of the show, everything was down. We were all set to go. And, I get the call on the radio, okay, go on house lights, we're ready. So I, call house lights, and house lights go out in the dome, and, the whole place just goes crazy, 40,000 people, just like, and right at that moment, my comm went out.
Oh. Oh, no. So then what?
So,
somebody
so
brought
then
you another one, hopefully.
started yelling at the upstaging guys to get me a headset because this one wasn't working. He handed me a headset, but believe it or not, was not working. I busted that one into a million pieces against the chair behind me and screamed at the guy, like, get me a freaking headset.
Yeah.
I felt bad for Derek. He said, actually, he's an old, probably my age, and is still touring. He's still doing Coldplay.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, he did get me a headset finally. And I figured for sure I was fired at that point because it's like, you got to make the call. But sure enough, the guys had listened to what I had told them, and Bob came walking out on stage left with a stripper on each arm and a great big white fur coat with a big white fur hat on. And they picked him up and walked him up to the front of the stage, and the band hit the first notes, and everybody picked up their targets. And about that point, I got my headset back and was able to call the rest of the show.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's that talk about longevity in a career. Like who had the bingo card with Kid Rock still playing live gigs like crazy and selling them out in 2025,
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
He's a smart guy. He was
a
always
very smart guy.
Always fun to talk to about business. Like I really learned a lot from him. I was always very interested in the business side of things.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from him. And I asked, and I put questions to him that I had asked other artists. Like Sarah McLachlan told me a whole lot about how record deals worked and whatnot once upon a time. And I remember to ask Bob. I said, "Well, you took some money this is the first album, like Devil Without a Cause, was the first album you took money for." And he said, "Yeah." I said, I said, "Well, did you get any? How long did it take to get money back?" He said, "I had to sell 3 million albums before I saw one cent."
Shit. Wow.
I didn't take that much money, but it took 3 million albums to get it back. And the first thing he did when he got money was he went out and he bought all his old publishing back.
So smart.
Yeah. So we were I was on like my second or third tour with him, and he had just released a new album called History of Rock. And I said, say, you sold like, you and I had this chat about like making money, and you sold about 4.5 million copies of this album already. But you're
Yeah.
at like 9 million copies and heading for 10 in a hurry of Devil. And I said most of the songs are remakes of old songs, except for American Badass. And I said, so what's the deal there? And he just turned and looked at me and says, oh, Red, I'll make way more money off of History than I'll ever see from Devil, because
Really?
he
Because
owned
he owned
all
the
the publishing.
publishing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how many people don't learn that. And, like I read about so many of the issues with the contracts in the early days, in the early 80s and stuff, when bands were breaking, and then realizing that, between the lawyers and the record companies, they didn't get much money from those album sales.
yeah,
And obviously, since as things have shifted over time, it's only gotten worse because, now they make fractions of a penny
yeah.
on
Now
every
it's all
play on
streaming,
Spotify
right?
or whatever.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
the,
it's
the whole
nothing.
industry's flipped from where it used to be that the
Yeah,
bands went on tour to promote the album, and now they
yeah,
go on tour to make money, and they put the songs on Spotify to promote the tour.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but back in the day, like in the early '80s, and when record companies were signing like $100,000, $200,000 sort of cash up front signing bonus record deals, and then they were paying for recording the album, they were paying for all the production costs, they were paying for everything, and you still got a cut though. Like you still got a cut when they sold a record. It's like, if they sold the record for $10 at the time, you were probably getting $1 and they were getting 9 or whatever. But you were still getting a cut. And then once all those costs got paid back, you got a bigger cut.
Yeah.
And, so it wasn't as bad, I guess, way back then. Then it just got disgusting after a while where you could never make the money back. I don't know why my screen just froze here. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. Let me see if I can fix this. Something bad is happening.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah.
So,
It is interesting how, like, I mean, and in those days, like, there was a little bit more of, the tour was the fun part,
yeah,
because there wasn't such a big push on making money
yeah,
on the tour. The tour was to sell albums.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
they weren't as budget conscious, and you could give
yeah.
away tickets, and bring girls backstage. And
When Rush were in their heyday, well, actually early in their heyday. This was early Rush, so probably just before Moving Pictures.
Chemistry.
Maybe even earlier than that. But they played at the Max Bell Arena in Calgary. And I remember reading an article in the Calgary Herald where they interviewed Geddy. And, they said, man, that place was totally full and you guys must be making all kinds of money from this gig. And he goes, well, that's not really how the economics work on touring. And they were like, well, I know it was sold out, which I don't remember how many seats were in Max Bell, but maybe 4,000 or 5,000, I guess, something like that. And, I know it was sold out and tickets were, $30 each or whatever they were. And he said, yeah, so, do the math. It comes to $100,000 in income coming in, but the members of the band, the actual musicians, only end up with $1,000 each. That's what we get paid for that gig. And I never forgot reading that interview because I was like, you got to be shitting me. My favorite band in the whole world, and, a band that sells out these small arenas or theaters or whatever. And they're getting $1,000 each. Like, that's ridiculous. And I should actually ask Howard about that one day because he probably got the rest. Because I know Howard did most of their settlements and stuff. Like he was tour manager, production manager, lighting designer, director.
I think the only thing he didn't do was sound, and he probably did that at one time too.
I'm positive he did. Yeah, I'm positive he did. He has some unbelievable stories about his days with Rush, which were plenty, obviously. But yeah,
well, have you ever met Liam, tour manager?
I don't know.
He was I was unexpectedly one time when I was in Nashville. He lives in Nashville, and it was before their last tour,
Oh, production manager for Rush.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I have met him. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, he and Christie ended up talking, and I was actually meeting Huntley in Nashville. We were going to discuss opening a Nashville shop. And so anyway, we had met with a bunch of people, but he gets this phone call and he says, "Oh, I've been trying to get a hold of this guy for a long time." And so gets him on the phone, and it's Liam, and he says, "Okay, well, where do you want to have dinner?" And turns to me, and I'm like, I don't know, somewhere with a steak, I guess.
Yeah.
So anyway, we ended up going out for dinner at the Palm, which is right across from Bridgestone, and sat down, and basically it ended up being like 2.5 hours of him telling us old Rush stories. And
That's
both
awesome.
Huntley and I are like huge Rush fans. That was the first band I was ever like really into.
Me too.
And I saw them in Regina at the Ag X Pavilion. There had to be less than 500 people there.
Wow.
The stage was only like 3 or 4 feet high, and they had like projection screens with Battlestar Galactica
That's
going
hilarious.
on behind when they were doing 2112.
That's probably when they were touring in a station wagon. Like, seriously, like Howard was telling me about this tour. The very first tour he did with Rush was in a station wagon with the whole band and some of the backline gear in the back of the station wagon, and driving through snowbanks and just going, what did I do wrong? Like, why did I agree to this? So
well, and Liam said that they were, what was it? The first time that he started with the band, he kind of started doing backline, and they were playing. What was that club that used to be in Toronto that everybody played? The
El Macombo.
Was it the El Macombo? I was thinking.
Well, the El Macombo is like the famous live April Wine at the El, and the Stones played there. Like a lot of bands played there.
This was the one where most of the heavier bands of the day played, right on. Anyway,
I can't.
He said they had to sneak him in because he was underage.
That's hilarious. That's funny.
Working for the band and being underage. Like that's how long he's been working for the band.
Wild. Yeah. One of the Howard stories. Did you ever do the Sportatorium in South Florida?
Oh, probably.
They called it the Snortatorium. It was in Pembroke Pines, Florida, and so the very first house I ever bought was in Pembroke Pines, Florida, and I had no idea at the time until one day somebody from the industry came to my house and he goes, "You know what's right back there, like that pile of rubble? That used to be the Sportatorium." I'm like, "Get out of here. What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, it was the most unbelievable concert venue. Like this is probably 93 or something when I learned this." And like everyone used to come to my house and go, "I saw Rush and Max Webster right there, right in where that was." So I talked to Howard about it on the podcast, and Howard said, "Did I ever tell you the story about the Sportatorium gig?" And I guess I can't remember exactly what happened. Maybe it was one of those times when they delayed it because of the baseball game or something, and a riot started, and they had to I think get the band out of there on a helicopter or something. I can't remember the story, but it was a great story. And I was like, wow, I looked out my back window at that place, after it was gone, because they tore it down, but they kind of left part of the foundation there until they eventually built something else there. So it was pretty cool.
It's funny when you look at those, some of the venues that are gone, and, and the joy that I felt when I found out that they were gone. The Igloo in Pittsburgh was one where I was like, oh, I'm so happy that I'll never have to go into that building again.
Boo, it's gone. Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the venues have gotten better over the years. Like, I mean, the first time I ever went to Red Rocks, it was it was not what it is now. Like now it's a lot easier to do the rigging and the load in and we always used to say, hey, it's a beautiful venue to see a show in. Horrible venue to do a show in.
Yeah.
If you're the crew.
Everyone always said it was the worst in and out, but while the show's going on, it's a stunning place, with the rocks in the background and stuff. But it's all pretty interesting. These venues seem to come and go a lot quicker now, though. Like I remember when the Saddle Dome opened, and I guess it's a bad example because it's been around a long time, but I remember the first concert, the first hockey game I saw there and stuff. and it's about to be imploded for the new building soon.
Yeah.
And
I saw Van Halen there in 1985, I think it was. It was the 1984 tour,
I lived in Edmonton at the time, so I saw it, the same show, but in Edmonton.
but at the call it Northlands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I saw it there. It was that was a fun show. That was the one with like 1,000 park hands or something, wasn't it? Or no, that
Yeah.
might have been David Lee Roth.
Well, David Lee Roth one of my buddies actually did the Eat 'em and Smile tour, and
Yeah.
he said that the only stipulation of a David Lee Roth tour was they had to have more lights than Van Halen.
I just remember it was like just this barrage of pars,
Yeah.
chrome pars,
And the
and just so many of them.
and the 1984 sign. It was the first time,
Yeah.
like they actually like turned it over, and it was like, oh, you
Yeah.
can do that?
Yeah.
That's a big thing to turn and then turn it
Yeah.
on and move it side to side.
Have you listened to Alex's book or read it called
No,
Brothers?
no, I haven't.
After Eddie died, he wrote it. Really, really interesting book. Like he completely avoids the entire Sammy Hagar era. I guess he didn't like Sammy very much, but
Yeah.
just all of the really cool detail on, his relationship with his brother, of course, his relationship with Dave, and just from their earliest days, how it all happened. Like I hadn't heard a lot of these stories, so I was a huge fan, like most people. And just it's a pretty cool book. It gets boring at times, but it's a pretty cool book. It's just interesting to hear all the behind the scenes stuff
Yeah.
with their family.
Have you ever had
So
anybody threaten you with like, or not threaten you, but like ask you like, so how come you've never written a book
me.
about all your experiences? Yeah. Over the years.
Um, Well, the fact is, I've actually tried a few times, but I get
Yeah.
bored very easily. So I'd need literally like what Cosmo's doing. Cosmo's got a ghostwriter, so he's got a guy that basically he sits down with for an afternoon and just tells him stories. And, the guy puts that into words and then gives Cosmo the chapter. He reads it 5 or 6 times and then says, you need to remove this, fix this, change this, So I'd have to do it like that. And I just have too many other things going on. But I'll tell you what I am going to do at some point is I'm going to do a Geezers of Gear book. That's going to basically, each chapter will be some LD or production manager or maybe Red Rod Gibson or, whoever. And each chapter will just go into, a group of their stories. And, it'll just cover a lot of really interesting people in our industry. And there'll be short chapters, but a lot of them because I've had 300 and something guests now. So
That's kind of good though. Like, did you read Nook's book?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, like I
Loved
liked
it.
the way Nook did that. It was just
Yeah.
experiences. Like each
Yeah.
chapter was like an experience.
Yeah.
So you would finish the chapter and move on to the next one.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
it
no,
was
I loved Nook's book. There's a few people who have written sort of shorter books like that I've really liked. And, I'm sure as we all continue to get older, we're going to start seeing some tell-all books coming out at some point,
well, that's always the fear, right? Is like,
Yeah.
it's like people ask me, well, could you write a book? I'm like, well, maybe like Nook did, but even then,
Yeah.
it's like you still gotta, name names and stuff, and they're not necessarily itching to name names of a whole lot of or
See,
denigrate.
Cosmo's not going to. He's going to name names of I was on tour with so and so, but he's not going to say I saw Steven Tyler doing something terrible under the stage or whatever. Like he's not going to get into any of those stories, which is what most people want to read.
Really,
You
yeah.
know? Yeah, I mean, I don't want to hear the happy stuff. Tell me the bad stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear about Leonard Skinner when they were all screwed up.
Yeah. I don't know if I already told you this story, but I remember I was at one of the Leonard Skinner gigs with Roth, and they were in some kind of a panic because what was the Leon?
Yeah.
Leon, I think in Jacksonville or something the night before they played, and after the gig, he met some bikers or whatever and decided, hey, I'm going to go party with these guys. But he didn't tell anybody. He just followed them and off he goes, right? And so it's like noon or 1 o'clock and sound check is at like 2 o'clock or whatever it was, right? And nobody knows where Leon is. Nobody's heard from him. Nobody saw him at the hotel. Nobody knows anything. And so it's like, now it's like, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the afternoon or something. And Leon comes walking in through the back gate at the shed in West Palm Beach. Whatever
Coral
it's
Sky.
called this week. Yeah. He just
many
comes
memories of the Coral Sky.
me too. He comes walking in the back gate, no shoes on his feet, wearing the same clothes from yesterday, just like, hey guys, and they were all just like, what the fuck? Like, what is going on with this guy, But that was him, apparently. I don't know much about the guys in Leonard Skinner, but Roth said, yeah, he does that stuff all the time.
Yeah. Well, the first tour I ever did with Leonard Skinner was in '93, and he wasn't in the band at that point. He had been unceremoniously placed on leave. For incidents like that.
Yeah, those types of behaviors.
Far worse, I guess.
Yeah.
And
it was like Steven Adler. Do you remember when Steven Adler said, who gets thrown out of Guns N' Roses for doing drugs?
Well,
which is kind of funny and true,
Yeah, not to name names, but the LD for Skinner prior to my joining had been let go, and for those reasons, and at that time I said the same thing. I was like, how can you get tossed out of Leonard Skinner for doing too many drugs?
Yeah,
I mean, there's just so many drugs out here that.
Yeah. Well, I think you gotta fuck up pretty bad. Like you gotta do something really wrong to get into that type of a situation where you're basically raising your hand and saying, pick me, I'm an asshole, But as long as you kind of keep your head down and, don't make a lot of noise or whatever, don't cause problems for the production manager or the management team or one of the artists or something, you're going to be okay generally. Or back then. Nowadays, it's a little more frowned upon, obviously.
Yeah, it's a different world now.
Yeah. So I'm technically, as of right now, tomorrow morning, I'm doing a podcast with Jake Berry and to talk about the Ozzy gig. And so then yesterday, of course, Ozzy dies. And so I don't even know if we're recording it now. Like I sent a text actually just before I started with you. Hang on, he just texted me back, I think. No, he didn't. So I sent him a text right before I started just saying, hey, I understand if you don't want to do this now, because we really just wanted to talk about, because he told me the other day, he said, Marcel, if I retired tomorrow, I'd retire a very fulfilled and happy person. It's the greatest gig I've ever done in my life, that one. The most meaningful, one of the craziest, but just unbelievable, amazing. And so I said, let's talk about it. And he said, hell yeah, let's do it. And so I was really looking forward to doing it. But again, I'd understand if he didn't want to anymore. I know he was pretty close with Ozzy, actually.
Yeah. Well, I was actually, I was a little jealous of, some of the guys that got to do that gig because to be there. And it just looked like, to me, it was like one of the most fun things because everybody kind of parked their egos and and just like seeing some of the old crew guys, like, and how everybody's aged and whatnot, but just all still out there doing it. And, and the band guys, like I said, looked like they all just parked their egos and had fun.
Well, and it almost seemed like a rehearsal, like they were learning songs as they went, which they probably were, like a lot of them
really jamming.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I mean, there was some bad music that happened occasionally, but who cares? Like it
Part of
was
the experience.
It was so cool. The whole experience was cool. It was sad to hear Ozzy singing some of the stuff how he sang it. Sad to see him sitting down in a throne as opposed to being Ozzy, but it was amazing. And what a fitting end to the whole thing. Like it's like, I'm sure it's going to come out from Sharon at some point that he knew he was dying. He knew he only had a couple months left when they planned this. And he was in a rush to do it. He wanted to give one last show to the people and then check out. And I just think it's so fitting how the whole thing happened. Like, would I like Ozzy to be here forever? Sure, I love Ozzy. But, if you got to go, what a cool way to go, man. What a cool way to go.
Yeah, with a tribute from Not just your fans, but like all of your peers through the years,
Yeah.
like the people that he took on tour with him,
Yeah.
and you know,
Bands
uh,
he helped break, bands,
yeah,
just every like just seeing the tributes pouring in on social media is wild. Like
yeah,
every bands that I haven't heard from in years and years and years, putting stuff out there, and everybody's got pictures with Ozzy. Everybody's got stories with Ozzy and stuff. I mean, obviously the
except me.
guy had an impact.
I never worked with Ozzy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Never ran into him anywhere. I knew lots of people that did, but
yeah. Well, I
I,
met
I
him. I met him at actually it was the Max Bell Arena.
okay,
I forget who it was that I knew, but I knew, like, I think it was Motorhead opening for them. And I think there was a third band, and I knew somebody in the third band or something. So I had passes and I got to go back and meet him. And it didn't faze me at the time because I wasn't a massive Ozzy fan yet. I became bigger one later, but it was Ozzy, Randy Rhoads, Rudy Sarzo, I believe, and Tommy Aldridge. And then what was the keyboard player's name? The guy who played with them in the early days, I forget. But I mean, what a band! They were unbelievable. I was blown away the whole time, and it was the last. I think it was the last show of the tour, and so they were playing tricks on each other, them and Motorhead. And I remember, like, was it Motorhead that somehow got up into the rig and they were dropping like or spraying whipped cream or something down on Ozzy, and then I think or maybe it was vice versa. Maybe somehow somebody got up and were shooting shit down at them from the rig, and then Ozzy, I think, came out and got Lemmy in the face with a pie during his show or something. Yeah, they were just goofing around. They were doing a lot of funny stuff, but it was a cool gig. But yeah, I saw Ozzy there. I saw Ozzy at the Corral, and I saw Ozzy at the Saddle Dome.
wow,
And then here at the Coral Sky, and
yeah,
probably at the arena here too. I've seen Ozzy way too many times, at Ozfest a few times. So
yeah. See,
yeah,
I was always touring with somebody else, and so it's those moments where you sometimes get a little crossover on a tour, or a day off or something, but
yeah.
never happened with Ozzy. I was never did any of the Ozfests or any of that stuff.
Oh,
So
uh,
always appreciated his music, and
yeah,
a lot of the guys that I worked with told great stories. Michael
yeah.
Keller said great things
Of
about him,
course, yeah.
and yeah,
Talk about a great profile picture for Michael Keller. Him sitting in the throne. Did you see that
yeah,
on his
I
on
did,
his
yeah,
Instagram or Facebook or whatever? Yeah, I mean, just killer. Like, actually, he put that picture up on something, and someone said, if that isn't your profile picture, like today, you're an
yeah,
idiot. And boom, it became his profile picture, as
yeah,
it should,
exactly.
But then, like yesterday, I think he posted one of him and Ozzy, like chatting or something, and
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. I
saying
have
goodbye to him.
I have a thing about profile pictures these days.
Ah, you still haven't got over it? Jesus. Man, when you lose to the Panthers 2 years in a row, you'd think you get over it more quickly.
Yeah, it actually hurts more.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny.
But I will say that I got to go up to Edmonton for Game 5, and that
I
was
know, which
one of
was
the best
amazing.
things.
I actually felt bad for you as much as I wanted to beat you, but I felt bad for you because, you are so invested in the Oilers. Like I would be with the Flames. If the Flames were going, to the Stanley Cup final, I'd be in that kind of a position too. But, you're so invested in them. And, I guess from a depth standpoint, I've only been a Panthers fan since 1991 when they started in Florida. And at the time I was still really only like 20% Panthers, 80% Flames. And then that bar moved a little bit to sort of the middle. And it's always sort of a game time decision, which shirt I'm going to wear when the Flames are playing in Florida or whatever. Right.
Yeah, I'm that way with the
And,
Kraken now.
yeah.
I have season tickets. I go to the
Yeah.
games, but you don't throw away 30 plus years or 40 years or whatever it is now of cheering for the Oilers.
Yeah. Yeah, well, especially when they've been pretty shitty for a while too, and
Yeah, you follow through all of that.
Now they have the best player in the world, and maybe arguably two of the top 3 or 4 best players in the world, and you get pretty excited about that kind of a run until, bam, you hit a brick wall. This guy right here. Matthew Kachuk. Matthew Kachuk is the brick wall that you keep hitting.
I got to tell you that a funny little bit of a funny story. I was recently. I have an Edmonton Oilers putter, which is a hockey stick, and it's got the Oilers logo and everything
Funny.
on it. And it's actually what I use to putt with.
Yeah.
It replaced in my bag. It replaced the Martin putter that I got from you many years ago when I was working with Yes.
Yeah.
But anyway,
is it as bad at hitting the net as McDavid was in this series? Just kidding.
Actually, what happened was I played in a tournament. ATK sound company has a little golf tournament every year. There's 120 or so people there, and I went and played in it this year. And the tournament started with a putting contest. So the putting contest was about 65 feet away from the hole, and anyway, after 120 people hit, I had the best shot of everybody. I was 6 inches from the hole.
Damn.
And from 65 feet, nobody else was closer.
Jesus.
So I thought I'd
with
won.
With your Happy Gilmore putter.
With my Edmonton Oilers putter.
Yeah.
So I thought I had won, but it turns out there was a 6-person playoff. So,
Jesus.
So I ended up in this playoff, and there was, I think I went 4th out of 6, and I putted, and it went right down, right to the hole. I was just like, it's going to drop in the hole. And when it got there, it went just like my dreams of the Stanley Cup. It rimmed the hole and went out.
Left. Yeah.
Yeah. And the guy behind me had been standing right behind me. He just followed my line and dropped it right in the hole.
Yeah. Jesus. Well, and it sucks because in the big group,
$5,000 too.
In the big group, you were closest.
Yeah.
And then they make you go again, and you're not, like that sucks. That's how they used to, in F1, that's how they were doing that sprint thing where you actually lost positions in the race if you failed a little bit in the sprint race that they did. It was kind of stupid how they did it. Like you qualify on pole, but you don't start on pole because you didn't do well in the sprint race. Well, that's stupid.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So tell me this, because we haven't spoken since the lovely playoff series that we were in. Was it harder this year or last year?
This year.
Really?
Yeah, like last year sucked. But
because you were so much closer last year.
Well, but it was that was it. It was the big comeback, almost the reverse sweep.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of positives that were going on, and and I like me, I'm pretty positive about hey, I don't ever leave a sporting event until it's over.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the score is, might be a blowout. I'm there till
really?
they
wow,
blow the whistle.
Good for you. That's amazing. Not me.
Let's go ahead.
Not me. When we're down 4 goals, I'm out of there.
No, yeah. I always stay, and I was like, so I was still confident, and I was like, so when they took it to within 1 goal in Game 7, almost made the reverse sweep. I was like,
I was shitting myself.
Yeah,
I was losing my mind at that point.
Yeah. So this year I was a lot more confident going in. Felt like and then with the Game 1 win, or fairly dominant, I felt like we were going to be on our way.
Yeah.
But then
I remember I follow your posts.
Yeah.
I follow all your posts. But I don't talk a lot of shit because I learned that lesson really on early on because I used to with football. I used to being a Dolphins fan and a Dolphins season ticket holder for 100 years. I used to get into it with Jets fans. We're gonna kill you. You guys suck. Yeah. And we'd be up 2 touchdowns, and I'd be like, yeah, you're out. You're losers. Rah, rah, rah. And then next thing you know, you lose by a field goal or something, and it's like, oh, Jesus. So I keep my mouth shut for the most part, believe it or not. Like even our bet scares me because I just feel like I'm jinxing myself. As soon as if I buy a stock, short the stock. If I'm picking a team, go ahead and bet against me because you're probably going to win usually. So...
Well, apparently apparently it didn't hurt you in any way. So
yeah. So for those of you who don't follow either one of us on social media, Rod had to do a Panthers thing, a Panthers logo for his Facebook profile for a week.
For 1 week, yes.
Yeah,
and it would have been the reverse if it had been
Yeah, I've never had an Oilers logo on my Facebook
Yeah.
profile, remarkably. So,
Well,
uh,
and
yeah,
funny things like like years ago, like you tell like I say, I never leave a game, and but I lived in Atlanta for. I worked in Atlanta for a lot of years, and then I lived in
yeah,
Atlanta for 7 years. So I have a big history with Atlanta, and the first city I ever lived in that had an NFL team. So of course I followed the Falcons and was a big
yeah,
Falcons fan and went to games. And so when the Falcons played the Patriots for the Super Bowl and were up big time at halftime, uh, yeah, and I had put the other bad part was or funny part was I had put $20 on the Falcons to win the Super Bowl at 44-1 at the beginning of
yeah.
the season before they
Oh
played game one.
God,
So that was
Jesus.
like a $900 payout on
Yeah,
$20, and I was like, so I was counting my money at halftime,
yeah.
uh, and was very disappointed. So
So was I, by the way, because there's no way I'm ever going to bet for the Patriots, and
yeah,
I hated their run. It made me crazy. It was just like if you had to get beat by the Flames every year, which is why I've always hated the Oilers because, the Flames had finished with the President's Cup,
right,
and the Oilers had beat us in the first round or whatever, like it just
yeah,
happened every year. It was just so painful until 1989 when they finally beat the Oilers and went on to win the cup.
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Well, I have
but
a special place in hell for the Patriots because of the Falcons loss, and then
yeah,
also because
that
of the
was
Seahawks
brutal.
loss, because of course I live in
Yeah.
Seattle. So
But that Falcons game was special. That was just like, how do you fuck up that badly?
yeah,
It was just
yeah,
disgusting. It was just like, do everything wrong and make every mistake you possibly can in one half of football. Let's see. Come
yeah,
on, go. Let's do it. Get her
yeah.
done.
Well,
Actually, it
it
was mostly in a quarter, wasn't it?
was mostly the fourth quarter. It was
Yeah.
really because in the third quarter they were still, moving and
Yeah.
everything, and then suddenly it
Yeah.
was like, okay, holding call.
They just
Yeah.
shit the
So
bed
anyway,
completely. Yeah, that
it
was
was
brutal.
that one hurt, and and then of course there was the Seahawks and the infamous. So why didn't you hand the ball to Marshawn?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Another tough one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it could be worse. You could be a Dolphins fan and you just haven't even sniffed a Super Bowl in a long, long time. So, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
and I had season tickets for almost the entire Dan Marino era, which was amazing, but very painful too,
Yeah.
like, I think the first year I got season tickets was 93, maybe
Hmm.
92 or 93. And so we got to see a lot of good football, but never a Super Bowl and hardly even playoff games that often.
Yeah.
So tough. It's tough
Yeah.
being a Florida football fan or a Miami football fan, anyways, because
Yeah.
Tampa's won.
Well, being a Florida hockey fan doesn't seem to suck so bad.
It's
Tampa.
pretty good. I got to say, it's pretty good. But you know what, though? Like, without geeking out too far, because we're boring the shit out of people already, but
Yeah.
I will say, and again, it's going to sound biased, and maybe it is a little, but I think the Panthers are doing a masterclass in building a team. And whereas the Oilers are spending, I don't know what percentage of their entire budget on two or three players, the Panthers are pretty even right across the board. And, like there's some bumps in there, of course, some guys who are making 8 million or whatever, but nobody's making 12 or 13.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes, I think, right now. Because if you look, the biggest payrolls were out fairly early.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
Toronto, Edmonton. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
So, and I mean, some of those
Colorado.
markets, like Toronto, you can't underpay. You have to spend the most money because it's like the Yankees of baseball is the
Yeah.
Maple Leafs of Toronto, right? You got to spend whatever it takes to get these guys, which is why everyone speculated that McDavid would be in Toronto next year or whatever, but which he still may. Who knows?
Yeah, I find it highly unlikely, but
Yeah. Well, why would you go to Toronto?
yeah.
I mean, when like that's the thing you got to be careful of when you're asking 16, 17, 18 million dollars a season, you got to realize that they're not going to be able to build much of a team around you.
Yeah.
You're taking too much money at that point, right?
Yeah.
So,
It'll
if
be
you want to
interesting
go
to
somewhere
see.
to win,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Vegas does with
yeah.
they've got a lot of cap space tied up in a few
Yeah.
players. So
You guys got some guys too in Seattle, right? Didn't you get Schmidt from us? I think.
We
Or
got
where did he go?
Montour from you
No,
guys.
but this year, didn't you get our defenseman Schmidt, 88? He was like a rented player for us. He played one season with us, I think.
Could be.
But I saw a couple guys, or one guy, anyways. I thought that went from the Panthers to Kraken. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't bet against the Panthers again this year. We got the entire team back, and
Bob. So
yeah, and Bob's still around. He ain't going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
So we got a good backup. So
Yeah.
yeah, should be a good year again. We'll see. Although, and I haven't checked this, I meant to check it, but somebody told me the other day that Kachuk is getting surgery and won't be playing until like December.
oh,
So, from that same injury that he was out at the end of last year, lower body injury, which they aren't really saying. Oh, they did say what it was. He had some real significant problems that he played through.
yeah.
Like,
well, and he
I can't remember exactly.
kind of did it to himself
Nasty.
at the Four Nations, I think, too. So
That was part of it, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was wild. Him and his crazy brother in that game. That was nutty, completely nutty. It was fun to watch, but not very bright. Not real bright. So, oh yeah, the lighting business.
yeah, that
I don't
sports
even think
lighting.
we've talked about it yet. We haven't even talked about the lighting business yet. So,
I think I assumed a new position since I talked to you last.
what are you now?
Vice President Rentals.
Sweet.
Yeah.
For the company or for
There's a bit of a reorg in how Huntley has run the company. So there's a couple of vice presidents. So it's
Yeah.
not like I'm the vice president of Rentals.
Yeah.
There's several others that have the same title.
yeah.
We have teams of people that we work with within the
Yeah.
company. So
You're
I
not
still-
like Four-Wall though, where like everybody's a senior vice president of something.
yeah, no.
Four-Wall, I think absolutely everyone
I
there.
think
is a
everybody's there. I think the guy
senior
Coiling
vice
Cable in the
president.
back is a senior vice president
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Coiling
senior
Cable.
vice president of shipping. The shipping guy. Yeah, it's wild. They throw out titles pretty
Pretty quick.
pretty liberally.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Well, that's cool.
But
Good for
I'm
you.
also still working as an account manager. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have several accounts that I like. Dirk Bentley. I pretty much will always do that one forever.
Yeah.
I'm sure. And then I do a lot of corporate work still with Microsoft and SAP and HP and
Oh, just small names
Adobe.
like that.
Yeah.
Small
so
names like that, little companies.
little companies that spend a little bit.
That's cool. And I mean, Huntley still being in the game is awesome. I like it. Like last time I had dinner or lunch with him, he said, "You know what, Marcel? I love working. I love what I do." Like obviously, he hasn't needed to work in a hell of a long time.
Yeah.
Who was it? Somebody was telling me that he knew that Huntley was on a different level when Huntley said, "Yeah, just stop by my house and pick that thing up." And so he stopped by his house and, on this massive freaking wooden door at the front of his palatial mansion. And a butler came to the door and he said, "Oh, okay. I get it. I see where this is going." So good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him. I
Well,
want a
he's-
butler.
I've never seen a butler at his place, but
No.
I would love to have a butler.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
At
I
least
don't
someone-
really know what butlers do because, I've always been poor. So, like, what does a butler actually do? What will they do for you besides answer the door?
Yeah. Well, but yeah, he's things have been going well. The company's doing
Yeah.
well, and I think we're setting records for most gear utilization and most money that the company's ever brought in. So
Those are really good records.
yeah,
Yeah, those are
so-
really good records. Like utilization rates is amazing. And I know you guys have built all kinds of really cool, efficient systems and stuff. And like even, I see some of the requests that come in for gear that you're looking for and stuff. I like the systems that are being built. And it's, I think very similarly to Huntley in that regard. I just don't have the budgets that he does, but I believe in, what's the saying that I love so much, but I can never remember it? You never rise to your goals, you fall to your systems.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big systems and process guy, like not to a point where it's rigid and, you can't do what you need to do to take care of a client, but to a point where, things are systematic and they're built in a way that you can replicate it over and over again. And the expectations on the customer side are similar all the time because they know what they're getting. They know how you deliver things. They know how you do things. They know the process.
Yeah.
Versus like I've had my small company with 3 or 4 salespeople in it who all do things 4 different ways. And it's just like, what are you doing? You're making me crazy. Like, let's find a common thread between the way that all 4 of you guys are doing this thing and let's make it work. And so, yeah, I love that about Christie. I always have.
That's what I believe that's one of Huntley's strengths is that he
Yeah.
knows the places to put in the systems. So like efficiency in the warehouse is always a big one. Efficiency and be able to turn around gear and make it work and get it back out. But then when you go to the sales side of the world, yeah, we use all of the same systems, but we all work in our own way in our own niche, right?
Right.
Like certain guys are more market driven, like Martin Kelly, who I'm sure you know.
I do. Yeah.
He is more of the concert touring industry. Like that's his niche. That's where
Yeah.
he spends his time.
Mm.
I spend a lot more of my time in the corporate world.
Yeah.
I still do tours because obviously that's
You have
where I
friends.
came from and I have
Yeah.
friends, but but I don't tour. I don't do tours as my main niche.
Yeah.
It's my main niche is really in the corporate world and
Yeah.
with
That
corporate
makes sense.
guys.
Yeah. That makes sense. And Chris McBean just gets in everybody's way.
He's in New York and I'm in Seattle. So
Yeah, I know. I know. No, and I like Chris. I'm just kidding.
yeah,
He does a good job. He's got a lot of friends and seems to stay pretty damn busy every time I'm talking to him. So no, that's really really cool. And so you said record numbers and record utilization.
Uh,
Is 2025 a big year or is 2025 a little bit flat? Like I've heard so many different versions of this.
yeah. Like I said, my niche is really in the corporate world, and
Yeah.
I have found that it's taken 5 years to come back from
Yeah.
2020. 2020 was a write-off.
Yeah.
The whole year, I mean, I had been doing record business for me. I
Yeah.
had the best first quarter I'd ever had, and then the pandemic hit,
And
and
then
it
boom,
was
yeah.
still almost a record, even with March being completely canceled.
Yeah.
So it's taken a long time, but I found that the corporate companies are now back to doing their spend and their shows to a
Yeah.
level that is at or exceeding 2019 levels.
Huh.
Microsoft is not back to where it was. I'm still about 50% of what I used to do with Microsoft, but they are back and doing larger shows again. So
Well, it seems like there's 2 sides of the story. Like, one side says, well, with everyone working hybrid or working from home, there's not as much need for these conferences and stuff. But actually, probably the opposite is true. When you're
I
not in the office, you want bigger meetings and bigger
yeah,
conferences
I
and
think
more
there
of
is.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like because there's only so much you can do by teleconference.
Yeah.
There's a difference to being in the room together and spending time together.
Yeah.
I mean, Huntley's always been a big believer in go to dinner, sit
Yeah.
down, break bread. That's
Yeah.
when you can have a chance to talk and you know, uh,
Yeah, more
so
business gets
that
done at the
that
restaurant or
yeah,
on the golf course, or it used to be the strip club. More business gets done there than in your office quite often.
yeah,
Like customers don't want to meet in your office. They want to meet on the golf course or in a restaurant or whatever.
yeah, and that's when
So,
you can have those casual conversations and solve a
yeah.
lot of issues.
Yeah.
Where you're not like in a strict.
Plus
Uh,
you get a couple glasses of wine into them and they tell you the real budget. Here's what
oh,
we really have to spend. I
oh,
know I told you it was a $500,000, but it really is 750.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, or the opposite. I know
Yeah,
you're thinking it's a
exactly.
$500,000, but
Yeah.
really we only got like
Yeah.
250.
Yeah, I know I'm telling you to build the biggest system in the world, but I only want to pay this much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my friends always used to say, he says, people in this business need to understand that, it's like kind of think of it as shopping at Safeway. If you go and buy, pick out a $25 steak and take it up to the counter, you don't tell the cashier, hey, I only really want to pay 15 for that.
Yeah, yeah. That's only our industry. Yeah, that's only our industry that does that. And God forbid the company is a friend of yours. Like that's the thing that I always find interesting. Like, why do my friends always think that they should get better deals than everybody else? You should be willing to pay the full price, shouldn't you? Like you're helping a
You should be
friend,
helping me out.
Yeah, so it's interesting. But, back to the utilization thing, like I happen to be a huge fan of that comment and of the entire topic because I think in general, one of the challenges in our industry is that we tend to be a bit cowboyish when it comes to CapEx and when it comes to buying things on a whim. And, I know there's probably several manufacturers listening to me right now, Eric Loader being the biggest one because he always listens and then calls me and gives me shit. But,
Hi, Eric.
just spending wildly because you have one show for 6 weeks or something that needs 100 of something versus convincing the producer to spec a different product or convincing somebody to, do something else or possibly sub-renting or whatever. Like, I like the fact that a lot of the people I'm talking to really are focusing on ROI and utilization.
Yeah, it's
right
a
now.
business, right? And it's not as cowboy as it used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, you would buy whatever, if you're putting a tour together, and I think we talked about the fact that, the money back in the 80s and whatnot was coming from the record sales, so
Yeah.
they would spend money and you would buy things for tours,
Yeah.
and sometimes you would utilize those things on other tours. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Roth was infamous for uh, building hex pods for a Kiss tour, and then using them for that tour, and then he and Jim Chapman and Dino DeRose would design that into the next Cinderella tour or the
Yeah.
next Leonard Skinner tour or whatever.
Yeah.
You had those pieces, but the big tours, like say a Kiss tour, you could afford to
They'd
custom
want
make
something
pieces.
new. Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, I mean, that makes total sense. But the other challenge is like, even in the 90s, 2000s, whatever, a moving light was $6,000, now it's 12 grand. And you can't just buy them for every rental that you need them on. There's so much dry inventory around the world right now. I see it every day in my real day job. There's so much dry inventory, and yet, we're buying like drunken sailors still. So, I find that it's a big problem. And I also find that people are starting to really pay more attention to the problem as opposed to going, well, I guess, CapEx is 30% this year or whatever, instead of 20%, now it's going to be 27%. And that's just a challenging business model that constantly requires new venture capital or private equity or whatever coming into the business.
yeah, and that's why there is so much
Of course.
private equity coming in, and and you also see like one of the things that Huntley, I think, who was kind of visionary at was what he calls the ORPL system, the official
Yeah.
rental product line. It's like, look, we're not going to buy every piece of gear out there because otherwise it's inefficient.
Yeah.
If you buy one kind of gear, you only have to stock one kind of replacement parts. You only have,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it does kind of like say to the designer, don't go looking through a catalog and go, oh, well, this company's got one of these, and I want four
Yeah.
of those, and six of these,
Yeah.
and eight of those. It's like, no, pick a moving light that that you like, that does what you need it to do, and then
Yeah.
design around that. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I mean, like if you think of ice cream shops that have 50 flavors or 100 flavors or whatever, they're not all going to be good, and yet if you had an ice cream shop that had 6 flavors, they're probably really like it's the best vanilla you've ever had. It's probably an outstanding chocolate, and so there's a lot to be said. Both business models work, right?
Yeah, like, and you're a businessman, so you understand too. Like the efficiency of being able to, like, if you've got 4 kinds of ice cream,
Yeah.
you only have to stock 4 kinds of ice cream
Of course.
in your
It makes
freezer.
a lot of
and you
logistical
can,
sense.
yeah, and you can sell your ice cream, you can pass that savings
Yeah.
onto the consumer.
Yeah.
So, instead of having to buy a $5 ice cream cone, you're buying a
Yeah.
$2 ice cream cone.
Yeah.
Well, but if
No, it
you've got
makes a ton of
100
sense.
flavors that you've got to
Yeah.
deal with,
Yeah. If
then
you have to have every brand of moving lights, you're not going to have the quantity that you'll need for some of those shows, So now you got decisions to make that are tough decisions. Whereas if you can sit down with the LD or the whoever it is and say, okay, you need 1,000, LED movers. You're asking for the Roby Spider. We have Aura PXLs, similar product, we're able to supply all of them. We don't have to sub rent. They're all very well teched, and they've got these benefits. Without even getting to price, chances are you can convince them to maybe make a change.
or not, as the case
Yeah.
may be. Like I have a certain client that loved, you brought up the Roby Spider. That was his favorite light.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, dude, I've got quantum washes over here that I can
Yeah.
give you for less because I don't own the spiders. I got to go get
Yeah.
them from somebody else. But then when I saw what he did with the spiders,
Yeah.
I understood
The fixture
why.
made sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it made
Yeah.
sense to me why he was doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, now I see why you need these. So I will
Yeah.
get these for you,
Yeah.
and at the best price that I can, but I understand the need for them.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of, the back and forth I often do with designers is, okay, look, if I can offer you a solution, and I might be able to offer you another 10 more lights over top of, well, whatever it is, of whatever
Yeah.
kind of light it is. But if it's not doing what you need it to do, what the vision is for your design, then okay,
Yeah.
well, let's get 10 less lights and
Yeah.
get the ones that you need.
Yeah. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
So,
But efficiency when you can keep your product line a
Of
little
course.
more limited is
well, and like you said earlier, that's Huntley's sort of,
yeah.
that's his A game. That's what he does, like he's been so, in a sense, I don't know, innovative, I guess, in the industry. Like, first, like I think if I remember correctly, his shops were the very first shops that I ever saw where they had truck pack taped out on the floor.
Yeah.
And they did truck packs, in the warehouse, and then boom, it just transferred into the truck when it got there.
Yeah.
And I had never seen anybody do that before, Huntley. And I was like, well, that is weird, but what an awesome idea,
Yeah.
And now, of course, everybody does that. But his racking systems and the case,
Well, yeah,
the
even
case
thinking
sizes.
through the cases, right?
Yeah.
All of the case sizing, instead of building the cases for the products, it's like we build the cases, we just adapt the cases to the products but stay within the same
of course,
dimensions, and all of those dimensions were made to truck pack.
Yeah.
So.
No, it makes complete sense. Everything kind of goes into everything else. It's sort of the Amazon method of doing things. Like sometimes it looks weird where you get a thing that's like this big and the box comes at the door and it's like this big and it's got that one little thing in it, But, it's better than having 42 different box sizes because, you have 42 different sizes of this or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's down to efficiency and keeping the cost low and making things move quickly and all those things, right? So it makes a lot of sense. But no, I really like that about what Huntley's done. And, the Nexus system, I know it's not perfect, but it was a great idea. And he's a very innovative guy. Like he doesn't just follow the crowd and do things that the crowd do. And I remember the Martin deal. When he first did the Martin deal, people were like, what is he doing? This is crazy, but it worked out very well for him, and I know it's not exclusive anymore, but it's still sort of the preferred line or whatever you call it.
Yeah,
but
and he's we still have a very Christie Lites still has a very large partnership with Martin. Which is not to say that we don't use other kinds of lights. I mean, we have bought Christie Lites has bought elation lighting, certain items that are like, oh, that fits our product line, and this is what we need.
Yeah.
Same thing with the consoles. I mean, everybody was like, why wouldn't you buy more Hog 2s? And Huntley said, no, Grand MA.
Yeah.
And
it's true. He was one of the earlier guys on that stuff too.
Yeah. So like with the Martin thing, it was the Mac 2K became kind of a standard for quite some time, and
Yeah.
he had Christie Lites had more of them than anybody. So
Yeah. How many Mac 1s do you guys have?
I don't think there's any. Oh, you mean the new
The little
Mac
one,
one?
the little
Yeah, the
tiny
little
thing.
one. Oh,
Yeah.
I want to say,
Thousands.
yeah, I want to say somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's such a cool little light that could be like for,
Yeah,
trade show booths and little things and,
and then
conference
even
stuff and whatever.
on a large show, like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
bunch
Eye
of them out
candy.
with
Yeah.
the Black Keys right now, and I did a gig last year with Brothers Osborne that Trevor Allstrand designed, and we
Yeah.
had a wall of 200 of them,
Oh,
and
wow. That had to
yeah,
look cool.
yeah, and he kept it hidden for like most of the show. It was only the last
Yeah.
6 songs he opened up the drape, and suddenly there's 200 more lights back there,
Wow. Yeah.
and they were such a beamy, cool little light. You can
Yeah.
make patterns and chases, and
Well, and the packaging, like the 4-bar thing or whatever, like all the different, I just, every once in a while, a manufacturer surprises you and comes out with exactly the right thing. And you just go, how did they do that? Like, they're not that smart, are they? Like, and to me, the Mac 1 was just a brilliant product at the right time. Everything was bigger and brighter and bigger and brighter. And then all of a sudden, this tiny little thing for, $1,500 or whatever. And it was just like, well, I need those,
yeah,
like,
a very efficient little light that
yeah,
and the price point. You're
yeah.
not having to spend, you know,
A bazillion dollars. Yeah.
exactly.
12 grand for a moving light. And are they reliable? Like, I've never actually asked anyone
They
that question.
seem to be pretty bulletproof
Are
from
they?
my experience with them. I've
Yeah.
had several on tour. Like I said, that we had that wall of them, and
Yeah.
they were very good.
Yeah.
But we were not swapping lights all the time.
Yeah.
Not like in the old days with the Vari Lites. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't mean to disparage Vari Lite in
No,
any
no.
way, but
No.
back in the day when when I was doing Vari Lites, it was two B's and two C's, and
Yeah.
you know
Right.
feel
I worked at Martin. You don't have to. I worked at Martin in the early days, not now when their lights are reliable and cool. I worked for Martin back in the day when everything was broken and pals had holes in the dimmer and like just yeah.
pals. You just dated yourself right there when you said
Yeah.
pals.
Well, I named it. I named the Mac.
Oh, yeah?
I named the Mac and I named the Pal. And yeah, I was very, very I was a big part of that business in the early days, not bragging or anything, but I worked very closely with Peter Johansson and his team on the things that we needed. And they never built the product I needed, but they'd always allow me to get in on some marketing stuff, like naming the things and what the brochures would look like and stuff like that. But usually the product, like I remember going to them and saying, which product was it? I think it was the Studio Color. We need something like this. And
An answer to this, yeah.
yeah, we've got it. No problem. We've got it. And he sent me like the Mac 1200. I don't know if you ever saw that one, but the big, huge thing that barely any light came out the front of it. And it was horrible. It was the worst light they ever made. And that's a statement.
Yeah.
But yeah, so sometimes they didn't build what you asked for back then, but obviously, they got real good at it after the fact with the Mac 2000. The Mac 2000 was one of those pivotal moments in our industry when it just went like vroom, the industry just picked up so much and moving lights became so much more prevalent at that point. Because
the Mac 2K wash was a to me that was kind of a game changer.
Yeah,
to have a wash light that was that bright and could do the things that it could do.
Yeah.
Robert Roth once said to me while I was designing, I think it was Lollapalooza, when they first brought it back in Chicago, and we were talking about what the design would be, and Robert said, and you need a bunch of we're going to do a bunch of wash lights, Mac 2Ks and Studio Colors. And I was like, well, what about all these profiles? And he's like, Red, you know as well as anybody else, you can't see a profile during the day at a festival, but you can see a wash light. It's a nice, big, thick beam.
Roth every once in a while comes out with brilliant statements like that. Like the guy actually does know what he's talking about, It's wild. Was that the one with Metallica, the Lollapalooza with Metallica?
No, I think we had Weezer. was one of the headlines one night.
Oh, because I was at the Metallica one, and I just remember like this was probably early '90s or something, maybe
Oh
mid
no, this
'90s.
this was in like the 2000s. It was
Yeah,
like
this was
Lollapalooza had
probably
been gone, and they brought
yeah.
it back for the very first time to Grant Park in Chicago.
This was either mid or late '90s. I don't remember,
Yeah.
but I just remember being front of house, which was like a tower,
Uh-huh.
and with Broderick for Metallica,
Was he 30 feet in
and
the air?
he was like 30 feet in the air,
Yeah,
and
when I worked with him, that's where I had to set up front of house, 30
I was
feet in
up
the
there with
air.
him. Yeah, I was up there with him, and I had never seen a mosh pit from above,
Yeah.
and I was just like, holy shit. Like, I wasn't even watching the band. I was just watching the people. It was insane from up
Yeah.
there. It was so cool.
That is one of the
But,
great parts of it because when I did the first summer sanitarium tour,
mm,
we were leapfrogging stadiums, and so Upstaging had one rig and LSD had one rig, and
ah,
so we were leapfrogging. But John wanted everything to be 30 feet up, so
yeah,
and it was three. You had a hog to control the studio colors, an Avo for him to
yeah. Ba, ba,
punch his
ba,
stuff on,
ba, ba.
and and control the gate, and had to patch the gates from the studio colors to him so that
Ah,
he could control the gates at all times from his
yeah,
console,
yeah,
even though the movement and all the color and everything was coming through the hog. It
yeah,
was a bit of at the time, it was a bit of a
yeah,
logistical nightmare of patching and
yeah.
merging universes and whatnot. But I'll never forget, being up there, and that tour was Metallica, Korn, Kid Rock, Powerman 5000, and System of a Down. And the first time I saw Korn play, and they were, their songs have a very heavy, low build-ups, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden there's this like, oh, and yeah, boom,
Yeah.
and watching the pits just open up in front
Yeah.
of you, like, and see these guys just going at each other.
Yeah. It's
It was like,
incredible.
yeah, something, and from above, it's a whole new view, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's incredible when you see that stuff. It's like, what are they thinking?
yeah,
Why are they doing
why
that
are they doing
stuff?
that to each other?
Yeah. Yeah. I
I,
went to one of the stadium Metallica shows last year with Koenig and in Edmonton actually.
yeah,
And Pantera was on, and the mosh pit was like right next to where I was standing, and I was just like, these people are lunatics. Like, why are they doing this stuff? You know,
I
it's
was
crazy.
years ago. I was at the I want to say it was the Rock'em Ring uh, festival. We did the Rock'em Park Rock'em Ring with Kid Rock, and Limp Bizkit was the headline, and Bob went on right before them. So I had run my show with Bob, and it was at the Nuremberg one.
Yeah.
And then after it was over, I got down from front of house and I went backstage and talked to everybody, gave a little hand or whatever. And then so myself and a couple of the band members and whatnot all wanted to go out to front of house to watch Limp Bizkit. We
Hmm.
hadn't seen them yet. And so as we were working our way up the outside, I started losing people as we got closer because it was getting thicker and thicker in the crowd.
Yeah.
And eventually I just lost everybody and I was all by myself
Ugh.
trying to get through the crowd to front of house. And I could see front of house and I was almost there, but it was really, really tight. I was working my way through all the people. And all of a sudden I just burst out into the open. And I was like, what the heck? I'm just standing here in the
Oh
open.
no.
And then out of nowhere, just wham, right upside the head, just got clocked.
Oh
And
my
and I'm laying
God.
there and I'm looking up and I can see all these people dancing around me in the pit. And I'd walked right into the middle of a pit
Oh
without
my
even knowing
God.
what I
That's
was doing.
hilarious.
And
That is so funny.
yeah, and so I stood up, and bam, just got drilled again. And I rolled over and I tried to get up, and bam, I got drilled again.
Oh
So I got
no.
got an eye on front of house, and I just stood up and I sprinted into the crowd at the edge of the pit and just rocketed through, grabbed my laminate, threw it up, and yelled at the security guard, "Get me out of here! Get me out of here!"
That's
Guy
hilarious.
grabbed me, lifted me over the barricade.
Yeah. Did you know Tim Brennan?
Tim Brennan.
Cinema Services and then PRG in Vegas.
I met him, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't say that
Well,
we
his
knew each
family
other.
owned Cinema Services, and then
Yeah,
they sold Cinema Services to PRG, and he went on for years with PRG. He
yeah,
passed away a few years ago, but um,
that would be back when I was working with PRG. Yeah.
yeah, I took Tim to where were we going? I think we were going to the Plaza show in London, but I had a bunch of lights. Peter Morse was doing Michael Jackson, and it was starting in Prague. And I had a bunch of lights on it. And I said, hey, do you want to go see Michael Jackson in Prague? We can just kind of go there and then pop over to London after that. And he was like, yeah, I want to go there. I've never been to Prague. I want to go. I want to see Michael Jackson. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he was all jazzed. So we went to Prague, and Peter, before the show started, said, why don't you come back with your guest and I'll introduce you to the artist. And I was like, oh yeah, that'll be cool. I think Tim will be pretty impressed meeting Michael Jackson and having a moment. So it was a field with a fence around it that they created a venue out of, basically. And it was like 125,000, 130,000 people. First show of the tour, first tour in a long time for Michael Jackson. Which tour was it? Dangerous, maybe? No, I don't remember. But anyways, so we're backstage. We meet the artist. We have a nice conversation with him. And then Peter's like, you better get going. The show's going to start in about 20 minutes, and it'll take you a while to get back to front of house. And I said, okay, no problem. So we go from backstage to front of house. It was, I don't know, maybe 100 yards or something to get out to front of house. But there's 125,000 people, and 90% of them don't speak any English. And so, we're going against, away from the stage.
Yeah.
You'd think that people wouldn't fight you, but these people have been camped out waiting to get in there for like 2-3 days in some cases. Right. And you're not getting my spot. Like they meant war over this, right? Like you are not getting my, so we're holding up our laminates and we're holding hands. Cause I was afraid one of us would fall and you'd never see him again. Right. Yeah. So we're holding up our laminates and going through this crowd, and people are like, wow, nyet, or whatever. Like they're just fighting you. And I was literally afraid we were going to die. And then like, it was like a movie, and we're holding hands, and then it's like, oh, his hand slipped out of mine because I'm like pulling through and he's getting pulled the other way or whatever. I never saw him again until our flight the next morning. And if you knew Tim Brennan, you'd laugh at that, because Tim Brennan was a little like Leon from Leonard Skinner, right? And he had a great old time. He was telling me the story the next morning. I was scared to death. I'm like, I just lost one of my biggest customers. What am I going to do? Like, what do I tell his family? And I
had him, and then his hand slipped out of mine, and then he was
had
gone.
The greatest time all by himself, and never made it to front of house. Never saw him until the next morning for our flight. We met in the lobby before our flight. So yeah, pretty crazy. So what's the big challenge this year? Is it gear, people? What are we struggling with?
Well, people has been a challenge the last few years. Like, I really feel like we took a massive hit with the pandemic. I mean,
yeah.
Unfortunately, everything kind of goes back to like I put it, the world ended, in our industry kind of ended for a little bit there in 2020.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
And then
restart.
So, but I looked at it, and I look at it as like, we didn't just lose a lot of people that kind of like left the industry and didn't come back, but we also had 2 years where we weren't really bringing in a whole lot of new people. Like there would have been all of those during that 2 years, there would have been a whole lot of people that came into the industry that did not.
Yeah.
So we didn't have those younger people coming up, and we lost a lot of the older, more experienced people. So it has been challenging, I find, crew-wise. And then, some of the larger tours, like you take a Taylor Swift or a Beyonce or any of those, they suck up a lot of people.
Yeah.
So there isn't that, like, back in the day, a large tour was a 5 or 6 person lighting crew.
Yeah.
Now it's like, 20.
Yeah.
You're all over a stadium, and you're there for days. Now there's a lot, and there's a lot more integration with video, sound, and everything else. So there's a lot of people. There's a lot more logistics to it. So if you're doing a smaller tour that only needs like 4 people, so it's tougher to find a crew. I find
interesting.
Yeah. So
Well, and
people's been a tough one.
rates have gone a little wild as
Yeah,
well for some of these people. So
some of them
yeah,
went a little ridiculous,
yeah,
and I think some of it's come back to earth a little bit,
yeah.
because
I
it
saw
was
an argument. I saw, go figure, an argument online, but I saw a discussion online about rates, and basically someone's argument, and I can't remember what his role was or anything, whether he was a lighting tech or a video tech or something, but his argument was the artists are making more money, so should I, and or Ticketmaster's making more money, or Live Nation's making more money. Why shouldn't
yeah,
I? And, I really wish that that's how the world operated, but it just doesn't. Like, the economy doesn't always trickle down. Sometimes
no,
it stays near the top, and so, yeah, I mean, I understand. Like, if there's a lot more money being generated through ticket sales or through, these convention shows, conferences, or whatever, if there's a lot more money being generated, certainly the good companies are going to share that revenue with their teams. But I wouldn't say that it's a given just because, like, Taylor Swift is getting, $500 for a concert ticket or whatever. Like,
right.
that
Your
doesn't
average,
necessarily mean you're
yeah,
going to make 300 grand this year, sir.
yeah.
you know,
No, and
so
that's that. There is that issue. There's the because most of your like you can sell out arenas, but most of your steady touring bands aren't continuously selling out
yeah,
arenas. They're at three-quarter house, and and they've taken a deal from Live Nation to get a flat rate, and Live Nation is the one that's taking the risks
yeah,
because the artist is getting paid a flat. And so the budgets are kind of set, right? The artist gets paid a flat amount. There's a flat amount for production. There's a flat amount for lights, for sound, and so you've only got so much money to work with when it comes to the labor. You know, so you can
right,
either, it's kind of like building a hockey team, right? Like you
yeah,
either pay for the, really flashy crew chief, and then put three guys below him that aren't necessarily, or you try to get an average crew chief and a decent second and a couple of new guys that are going to work for a little bit less.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, it's all got to fit in that box, that budget, right? So
yeah. Do you or does Christie have like a strategy or philosophy on bringing in and working with younger techs, like bringing in new talent and training them and, you know,
we we did some training session stuff in Europe, and some industry mental health stuff as well. Um, but we are actually we run a full-time tech program. So we have people that work full time, and then they, under their contract, they have to work so many hours or gigs, uh, but they get a steady paycheck, they get benefits
yeah,
and whatnot. So that's always a big one
yeah,
is benefits and whatnot, because that can cost you a lot of money
yeah,
outside. And it's not as much like in the old days. Everybody was very freelance. You worked for the same company all the
yeah.
time, but you were freelance. And nowadays, there's so much more emphasis on wanting to have benefits and whatnot. Like when
Well, I
I
think it's
started
good
out,
for the employee and for the company.
yeah,
It's good for both sides to have that regular relationship, as opposed to just
yeah. Like
grabbing freelancers when
when
you
I
need them.
started in the business, it was, we were pirates. It was
Yeah,
like, and there was a certain pride that you took in being like, yeah, it was a really hard job, and you worked really hard, and you did some really stupid stuff sometimes just to make the show go on.
right.
But you were also, you were like one of those special people that could do it. Like I saw lots of people try and fail at trying to go on tour.
Yeah,
There's a lot to it that and even to this day, like, there's a guy online that really wants to try to change the industry and make it more focused on mental health and on having benefits for people and full time. And his argument is, like you say, that people have it doesn't have to be this way. There is enough money out there that people could get proper benefits and proper mental health care and whatnot. But he is getting a lot of pushback because there's those of us that always felt we were kind of like the special people that could do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's always going to be there. And
Yeah. Well, plus the other thing is every business runs their economics different. And, you can't just assume that if Christie has this much money left over at the end of a gig, so does this company, so does this company, so does this company. Like, I've always hesitated to jump into other people's pockets and tell them what they can afford to spend today. So, like, I think every company just has a different way of operating their books and a different way of capturing revenue or profits or whatever. Like, they may pay more for their lights, but charge less. And therefore you've got a skinnier margin. And what are you going to do? So yeah,
and you make your decisions, right? Like I remember the last time that I ever did a steel call where, climbing steel and building the steel for Lollapalooza or something like that. And I looked at what I was getting paid, what they were supplying for lunch and meals, because you have to be on site.
Yeah.
And I kind of just went, I'm past this. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't get enough money to be running a pass line up with steel and pounding it in the hot sun all day long.
Yeah.
And then get an egg salad sandwich for lunch. So I just finally went in. I said,
"This is not my perfect life anymore."
No, I'm done. I'm not getting paid enough to do this, and I don't need to be doing this. So I don't mean that to sound egotistical, but it was a point in my life where I decided that this part was behind me, and I was not going to do that anymore.
It's a sensible decision.
Yeah.
It's funny. A couple weeks ago, I had Roy Bickle. I don't know if you know who he is, but
I remember Roy,
godfather of rigging, and he still takes jobs. He's in his 80s and he still does the occasional job. Like, his kids are both in the business and they'll call him up and say, "Hey Dad, you want to be the head rigger on such and such?" And he's like, "Yeah, you coming through Vegas? Sure, I'll do it." I mean, it's hilarious. Like, he doesn't climb anymore, but he'll engineer it and whatever. Like, he'll do the other stuff where you're not climbing, but it's so impressive that, in his 80s, he's still, and he doesn't need the money, he's just attracted still to the business. He loves the adrenaline he gets from it, I guess, the energy.
Yeah. And he's a legend, just one of the originals.
Oh, hell yeah. Such a nice guy too. It's funny because Sarah, after the interview, she stayed on with him and I had to go to a meeting or something. And, he showed her around his swag room.
Oh.
And she said, "I've never seen anything like it. Like, he's got all kinds of Elvis stuff, that's like a one-off piece of Elvis stuff, and like, his swag has to be worth tens of thousands of dollars, or whatever. I don't even know what number it is, but he's just got insane stuff. It's just really, really cool. But speaking of old people like us, what keeps you motivated after being in the business for, 40 years or something?
Yeah, it's been 40 years now. Yeah, I like what I do. It's interesting because like a lot of people say, you got out or you got off the road or whatever. I was never trying to get off the road. I looked at other possibilities, but I loved what I did. Like I say, I loved when I was crew chiefing for bigger gigs. I loved standing out and looking at the rig when it was all up and in the air and all working and going like, yeah, I got that to happen. And when I got to run a rig, I loved running lights. That was always the biggest thing to me when I started in the business, even back in the, going back to the club days when you had 24 park hands and one rack of ACLs. But I loved doing lights. I loved the music. But I was always focused on the fact that it was a job. Like earlier you were talking about being a musician and figuring that you weren't going to make anything.
Yeah.
I never ever claimed to be part of the band. That was a big thing to me, was that I'm not in the band. I work for the band.
Yeah.
And so I could always kept it very cognizant that I worked for me, not for them. They were a client to me. Even if they were my friends and we traveled together and did lots of things together, They was still,
They still had to pay you at the end of the gig.
yeah,
It wasn't like a line of blow and a couple beers and
no,
you're good, right, Rod?
yeah,
No.
no,
Yeah.
no hot dog and a t-shirt, you know.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
uh,
Exactly.
but um, but you know, I enjoyed my career. I enjoyed being on the road. I really liked doing it. When I took the job at Christie Lites originally as an operations manager, I didn't enjoy. I enjoyed getting the place up to an efficiency level. I liked being the boss because it was kind of like being a crew chief without being on the road.
Yeah.
But I didn't like the commute. I didn't like having to commute to work every day. I hated that, and that's when I realized that I didn't want to. That just a reason I had been a roadie my whole life, and that was I don't like this part of the life. And the 9 to 5 was a little much. So when I became an account manager, it was kind of ended up being a dream come true. It's like I still get to travel, I still get to go see my friends, I get to go hang out, but I don't have to get on a bus anymore.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy what I do. People that say ask me if you're going to retire. I'm 62 now, so and I'm like I may never
What for?
retire.
Yeah,
I
what
might be like
for?
Roy. I was like, well, I just want to fish more, golf more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had that conversation with Roth the other day actually cuz he just turned 70
yeah,
and he said, I'll relook at it at 75.
yeah,
Right now I love what I'm doing. I love who I work with, the people, like my clients and the shows that I'm doing and that kind of stuff. And, he said, I'll look at it again when I'm 75. I could retire. I have enough money. I'm okay.
yeah.
But I don't want to. So,
No, and I don't think like I've known Robert a long time, and I think Robert really enjoys it so much that like the whole part of the business, like the succeeding and whatnot, that I don't think that he would ever not want to be doing it.
yeah.
Like that's what he loves to do.
You'd get bored awful quick,
Yeah.
especially now that he doesn't drink. Like if he still drank, he could just
Yeah.
go visit, expensive wine places and stuff and just
Yeah.
drink himself into oblivion. But now that he doesn't drink, how do you keep yourself busy? Like
Yeah. Well,
same with me. Like your mind can't just suddenly shut off when you've been working your whole life and you love
no.
what you do and you love who you do it with. It's not
Yeah.
really, not
Yeah.
really
I think
something that feels like work, is it?
yeah. Like I mean, I like to fish. Love fishing and golfing and but you need that some sort of stimulation to keep you going and keep you moving. And like I say,
Yeah.
I love what I do. I love when I get to go to a show now and stand there and watch somebody else do it.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, I was like, the last console I ever programmed was a Hog 2. Now I look at
Wow. It's
what
been a
guys,
while.
yeah, I know. I look at what guys do on the MA now.
Yeah.
And the way they interface all of the video and
It's
everything. Like,
wild.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Well, you look at a show like the Eurovision, and
yeah,
they have like, I don't even remember how many it was. It was like 50 of them or something,
yeah,
MA3s. And you're like, what the hell? Like the
yeah,
network system that they
yeah.
have
That
to
I
do
was
that
going to
show
say
is
the
just
networking
insane.
is, yeah.
It's wild.
I mean,
And
I remember having the pin patch. Getting into you went out and did the pin patch on the Avo, and you did
yeah,
your pin patch in the dimmer rack,
yeah,
and back in
yeah,
the days with the old RA Roth gear, you had the weed box, you had another place to be patching. You could actually patch the ACLs all together in the box, so
wild.
you didn't have to do it. Which made for some great patterns when you had the pods, and you could bring up
Yeah,
4 ACLs that are in series, but that aren't linked in a bar, right? So,
yeah, yeah,
but I look back, it was all hard wires and copper.
yeah,
Nowadays everything's all on networking and stuff, and I wouldn't
yeah.
even dream to know how to get into all of that.
It's like every once in a while I used to do sound for a friend's band or something if they didn't have anybody to, sit at the soundboard and turn up the solos and do a sound check or whatever. And I could make the drum sound real good. I could make a band sound pretty good on a 24 channel Soundcraft console, right? But then it got complicated. Like I don't even know how to turn on these digital consoles and all the plugins and where's the rack of EQs and stuff. Oh, we don't have that. That's all plugins. And
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, I'm out. Tapping out now. See ya.
yeah. Like I
So
remember you know Jim Yakubuski, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So Jim and I worked together back in the day, you know, with a band called The Level in Vancouver
Yeah,
and Boys Room back in the
yeah.
days and stuff. And
I was just
um,
talking to Kevin
uh, oh
recently, like I don't know, a couple weeks ago or something. Just online, we were having a conversation.
yeah,
Haven't seen him in forever.
yeah. You know, I actually heard an interview one time with John Bon Jovi, and he was talking about like being in Vancouver and seeing this band that was so great. And he said, "Man, this guy could sing Journey like he was Steve Perry." And then when I talked to him, he said, "You know, well, where's your original songs?" And he said, "We don't have any original songs." I was like, "That was Kevin in Boys Room
Yeah, that's
that he was
wild.
talking about."
That's wild.
But
Yeah, he was a good dude. He was a good singer, and he came to work for me for a while because he wanted to get off the road, and he was a terrible sales guy, but yeah, he was a good guy, and he's still doing it. He sings for a band wherever he lives now, somewhere up north, I think. Like,
yeah, yeah, him and Craig from Simon Chaos, they
yeah,
live up in Fort St. John.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's where it is. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
and they
but I was
sound
gonna
pretty
say,
good. I listened to a couple of videos online, and they sounded pretty
yeah,
good.
yeah, it does some
Yeah,
good stuff. But I remember Yakubuski told me years ago. He said, you know, when he first started out being a sound guy, he was couldn't get he was ringing and feedback and having all of this trouble. And I think he was working for Mad Dogs and Heat or somebody like that.
yeah. I forgot
And
about them too.
um, but anyway, he was at a club in Calgary. I forget the name of the club, but it used to have like the penalty box was where you put the front of house lights and sound. And but there was another club. There was a country club and a rock club in the same place. So he went over to the country side and was talking to the guy who was doing sound, and he looked over and he said, "What's that?" The guy says, "That's my EQ." Kevin didn't. He or not Kevin. Jim didn't know what an EQ was. Like he
Oh
was
my
running sound,
God.
but he didn't have a.
That's
How do you
hilarious.
EQ the room, right? Like he
Yeah.
totally didn't have one of those
Yeah.
in
Well, I
his
got
rack.
the bass here and I got the treble here and
Yeah,
the mid
it's
right
all on
here.
on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
board,
Just
right?
right here. These little
Yeah,
dials. That's how I do it.
yeah.
Yeah. I
So
remember he was like the first guy who figured out the sampling on the drums, with the reverse gate on the snare drum and the real clicky bass drum with the trigger on it, the sample trigger.
yeah,
He was the first guy that really figured that out. And then he told me at one point that was one of the reasons he got hired by Stryper, because he knew how to work with sampling and drum triggers, and they
yeah,
wanted to get into that.
yeah,
And so Jim got the gig.
yeah. It's amazing, like and Jim and I we got together last year just for a minute in Nashville, but it
Yeah.
was fun because we go back so long. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been 20 years since I've been off the road now.
Yeah. It's wild.
My last gig was in 2006. So, um,
Crazy.
but uh,
And
we
you're
we
fully
were talking
recovered.
about like, yeah,
That's
yeah.
wild.
Well, but it's funny because we were just chatting, and there were so many great crew guys that came out of Canada from that era. From that, like there will never be another era like the club scene of the '80s in Western
No,
Canada.
no,
That
no,
was,
definitely not.
that was,
Well, even
they,
some of the musicians, like the talent level of some of the musicians that were around, look
oh,
at Kearns, Todd Kearns, all
yeah,
the gigs that he's doing still, like he's doing really well,
yeah.
and I
And
remember
I
the Age of
remember,
Electric real well.
yeah, and I was in a club band. I was doing lights for a club band that Todd was in, and he wasn't even the singer. He
Yeah,
sang some of the songs, but he was,
yeah,
bass player, had that tiny little
yeah,
bass there,
yeah.
and
No, I
big
remember it.
gigantic hair.
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah,
if I ever posted a picture of him with his gigantic hair, he'd probably want to come shoot me.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
and even like the band that they have together with
Took,
Took.
yeah,
I remember meeting Corey Churko like way back, when
yeah.
they were in their family band with
I
the whole
remember that.
family.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we were
No, it's wild.
playing in Medicine Hat, and
Yeah,
they played upstairs, we played downstairs, and in the band house they stayed upstairs and we stayed downstairs. You
funny.
know, so
That's
yeah,
funny. Well, Rod, I've had you for way too much of your day. You got to go sell something, I'm sure. And I
make up
appreciate
for all
it.
this
I
time.
enjoy talking with you. And, You even took a couple hockey shots, which is good. I try to keep it to a minimum. I don't like to,
Yeah.
what I always find is when you rub it in real hard, it's coming back to you twice as hard, So I'm generally pretty gentle about that kind of stuff. I don't think I harassed you too much online or anything either. So, I've lost way more games in sports than I've won, or my teams anyways. And so I remain
In the words of sports
humble.
fans everywhere, next year.
Next year. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have an amazing time, and I don't know when I'll see you, but probably LDI, I guess.
Yeah. I'm planning on coming down.
Cool. All right, Rod.
Awesome. Well,
Thanks
good talking
so much,
to you.
man. You as well. We'll see you. This episode is brought to you by GearSource. GearSource was founded in 2002 with an ambitious mission to support live event businesses buy and sell gear globally. Since that time, the company has transacted in more than 100 countries, selling $250 million in sound, lighting, staging, and video gear. GearSource continues to evolve the platform for global growth, enabling localized currencies, fraud identification, protecting buyers and sellers, plus global logistics support through Gear Moves. The company is developing new features, including Gear Sync, allowing you to manage up to 400 listings at once, and Need Zone, an automated shopping assistant for hard-to-find items. Take full control over your gear with a visit to gearsource.com today. And also watch very soon for a new, smarter cross-rental platform being introduced this summer.